Hi, you. How are you? Today I want to talk about an article I read maybe 2 years ago that shook me up because I don't know what I was looking for. I went on Google and I typed something about time trauma. I do a lot of reading around trauma recovery, the effects of trauma on the adult, how do we recover from trauma and all of those things. And I don't know what I was struggling with at the time, but I did a search in Google and I found this article about, I think it was about torture, trauma and the passing of time, something like that. And basically, this article says that if someone has been tortured or if someone has gone through prolonged trauma, they lost trust in humanity. They lost trust in the future. They don't believe there's a future for them. So it was a fascinating article in that I've always struggled with the time that was passing by. Every year that was passing, I always struggled with that. I hated, I still hate Christmas, and I hated the end of year celebrations, but I didn't know why, because it was a new year, and because I felt so stressed by the passing time. I remember like in 2000, I was thinking, 2010 seems so far away. How do people live till 2010? It seems so far away. And that feeling as a very young adult in my late teens, feeling as if 2010, 10 years later, was so far away, came from my childhood where I had lived such a complicated life, moving around, abused, parentified, lots of things, that I came into adulthood very tired. I was totally tired already. And my sense of time, the way I experienced time, because I grew up not safe, my sense of time was warped. It was, I don't experience time like other people. And I thank that article for opening my eyes and like putting a word to it, because I just felt it was a shame I couldn't tell anyone, because how do you start telling people that 2015 is so far away? How do you live because but it affects you when you have this distrust in time, this distrust, and that's an effect of trauma, that it makes you feel as if you don't have a future, as if your life is going to be cut short, as if you cannot have those milestones like everybody, get a job, be married, have kids, or whatever you want, like the milestones people go through in their lives. Your body and your mind just register that it will not happen to you. And I used to talk to myself like, people like me don't get married. People like me don't deserve happiness. People like me don't do this, don't do that. And I was a teenager and it was so definite. Now I'm thinking, but how did I come to that conclusion? It comes from trauma, from not feeling safe, from being beaten, from not being protected, loved, or nurtured. And it followed me into adulthood. And I thank that article. I will put it in the show notes, for opening my eyes to what it is, because it's a sign of trauma. For people who have suffered trauma, they can have this. It's called a sense of foreshortened future. So it's a sense that our future, my future, will be cut short. That I cannot live a full life, because with trauma, with being stuck in fear in childhood, we become adults that are unable to project themselves into the future. The question when you go to a job interview, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Oh my, I hated that question. It terrorized me. It was not the hardest question. Or the worst one is, where do you see yourself in 10 years? It just wow, like I think I prepared for that question more than all the other questions, because I knew that if the question was just thrown at me randomly, I would trip. I would say something. Maybe my interview would be going well, and then it would get to that question, and then I would say something very random. So I had to always like write down the answer, go on Google and look for what people say, what is conventional to say, what looks right, and write it down. Because when you have this fear in you, this fear of foreshortened future, you cannot project yourself. So you go like week to week or month to month, or you cannot see yourself 6 months from now, 1 year from now. I was always amazed how people could plan, for example, a wedding 1.5 years from now. I'm like, wow, but how do they know? How do you project? How do you know it will happen? Because my traumatized self could not even project into the future. But I had another side that was very rational, that would start things that could go into the future. So there's a spectrum of this. There are people that they cannot even project themselves 2 days from now. They cannot project themselves until Monday. Today is Friday. And so they can even end up homeless. They don't have any projects because they feel like, why should I even start looking for work or paying an apartment when something bad will happen to me anytime, very soon. So it stops you from setting goals for the future. It stops you from projecting yourself, visualizing yourself in the future, that I will be this or I'll be that. So it can really be very damaging to the person. So there's a spectrum of that, where I don't think I was at the extreme, because I was still like studying and things like that. But when it came to like committing myself in relationships or even building friendships, it was just super hard for me. It's one reason, but it's not. It doesn't explain all the reasons why I couldn't build friendships. But it's one, because it's why build friendships anyways. Because my what was registered is I move from place to place to place. So why bother build friendships when I will move and then I will have to forget the people? So now as an adult is, why build friendships when they will not go into the future? They will not, it's just like creating myself more pain. So that's what was registered. And so it can really be, it's really a burden to carry. But I think it's so important to be aware, because awareness is actually a gift. To be aware of something, you can hear from some things you're aware of. So from the day I read that article, it explained so much of how I was scared of projecting myself into the future. Of yes, I was in a committed relationships, but there were things that I did not dare do because, but what will happen? But what will happen? No one knows what will happen. Like, even people who haven't been through trauma, no one knows what will happen. Okay? People have hopes, they set goals, they have wishes for their lives, they do vision boards, they journal, they write things down. They try to make it happen because that's the wish they have for themselves. But knowing for certain that it will happen, no one knows that. And that's how everybody takes life. So it's important to know that, and then to start challenging those thoughts we have in our minds, because it's all in our minds. Seeing the negative thoughts about the future, it takes a lot to start observing our thoughts and seeing when those thoughts creep up, and say, hey, why you don't buy that car? You're signing a 5-year credit, like, don't do that. Or you're buying a house, 25 years, that's such a long time. How do you know what will happen? You say, okay, everyone who bought a house doesn't know what will happen, but they have hopes, they have goals, they plan for things, and they try to make it happen. And we can also do the same. We can set goals, Sometimes it's start by setting small goals and then, work towards them and then set bigger ones and gently get out of this and accept life as it is. And I just think like gaining consciousness of this is very important. And of course, therapy, if you go to therapy, this is something you can discuss with your therapist, because it's important to not be so scared of the future, because it in cases where it can really hold us back, it can keep us stuck, because when we're in the cycle of why should I bother doing this when my life will be cut short soon, where we don't do anything because it doesn't matter. But actually it's a survival mode. It's a way of living in survival mode, like in childhood when things were happening. We live in survival mode, and then because it's day to day, we don't know what will happen. Actually, we recreate that, because the other side, one could think, okay, if I think that my future will be cut short, then I'm enjoying my present. Actually, these people don't enjoy the present. We don't enjoy the present because we are in survival mode. It's not something where I'm like, oh, I'm at peace. I know that I don't have a future, so I will enjoy my day to day. That would be amazing. Enjoy my day to day, and then, we see what happens. No, it's anxious living. It's living in fear. It's really living in a very like suffering on a daily basis. Not enjoying life, not even enjoying that day that we think maybe that's the only day we have. We don't enjoy it. So it's important to break the cycle of this way of thinking and build something else, and start by setting small goals. If we are really, really affected by this, setting small goals, achieving them, setting another small goal, achieving them, maybe setting a goal that will happen in 3 months, 6 months, building like that, and just taking it from there. Meditating, journaling. I would say when these negative thoughts come, writing them down and trying to see why they come. What's the fear? Yeah. And in this article too, there's something that I realized reading that article. It's the way I perceive time. Just to give an example, if I told, I don't know, my sister, can you give me the glass of water there? And then she takes a few minutes to give me the glass of water. In the past, I would get so angry. So, I asked you a long time ago to give me the glass of water. Why don't you give me the glass of water? You have to wait before. Because for me, that's what trauma did. It also affected the way I perceive time. The way time affects me, in the sense that maybe 2 minutes have passed, but for me, 6 minutes have passed already. Or maybe a minute and a half has passed, and for me, it's already been 6-7 minutes. Because it's this state of fear, constant fear I was in, not relaxed, in this ready to fight or fly or whatever, this trauma state, right? This trauma response state, this toxic stress that a child stews in. So always in anticipation. So there's no relaxed relationship to time. And I used to get upset because, it's taking too long. Why is it taking so long? And actually maybe it's only a few minutes have passed and not 20 minutes as I perceive it. Just like realizing that is a big shift for me. And I know other people might struggle with this too. And it makes us, I don't know, I just build my patience from there, because I know that what I perceive as being a long time is kind of maybe a trauma response, and it's not such a long time, and it's okay, and that's what I wanted to share today. So it's if you want to Google it, it's a sense of foreshortened future. they call it. So a sense that the future will be shortened, the future will be cut short, and that we will not have a normal life like anybody else. But what is sad is that if we don't realize this and shift it in us and change the way we perceive the future and build towards it, we can have this fear of the future and drag it until we are 60, 70, and we're still there being scared, not making plans. Because it's not because you're scared that your future will be cut short that it will be cut short. It doesn't work like that. You can be scared that your future will be cut short and then it's not cut short. So you stay in this trauma response, surviving day by day and it's kind of really sad, especially after maybe a difficult childhood. So I invite you to think about this and question it. If it concerns you, reach out to me, write me an email or write me a DM on Instagram. I would like to hear from you if anybody struggles with this. Thank you. Bye for now.